Hey adventurers, so today is going to be another book review. This is going to be for The Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson. So this is his fourth secret project and the last book for his surprise 4 secret novels Kickstarter and all that stuff. So kind of the last book in the year of Sanderson for me. I don't think that I will get to another Sanderson book before the end of the year just because I am running out of time. But this one is another high fantasy book. This is another Cosmere book, Cosmere novel, and there's a lot of, what genres does it actually fit into other than like high fantasy and Cosmere? There's a lot for sure, because all fantasy books do, but those are the two primary ones that come to mind. So as I mentioned, The Sunlit Man is Sanderson's Secret Project number 4. This one was the one that was supposed to be heavily tied into the Cosmere and be very specifically Stormlight adjacent. As with all of the secret projects, that description and who the main character was going to be was pretty much all that I knew about this story going into it. I knew who the character was going to be, and I knew that brief description of this is the most Cosmere adjacent and it's supposed to be specifically very this is the most Cosmere the one tied in most heavily to the Cosmere and the one that's most Stormlight adjacent. That's really all that I knew about the book before I go in. So before I get into the rest of this review though, I just quickly like to say if you're liking what you're seeing from an Erudite adventure, we'd really appreciate it if you would like, comment, and subscribe. So there's a lot of stuff in this book that I really enjoyed, and I totally get why so many people are saying that it's his best secret project and that it's one of their new favorite Cosmere books and everything else that they're saying. The setting is, once again, fantastic. Our main character is an engaging and interesting character. The magic and the attempts to understand it all are fun and unique as always. Sanderson is just a great storyteller. He does a really good job at telling a good story and making you want to read more of it. As with any Cosmere novel, there's a lot of implications here, and I love seeing all the references back to Stormlight and seeing how they worked. But I do wish that I had read a couple of his other stories as well before reading The Sunlit Man, namely Dawn Shard, which is a Stormlight novella, so I should have read it by now, but I haven't, and then Shadows of Silence in the Forest of Hell, which is another one of his novellas, and it's in, what is it called? It's in Arcanum Unbounded, but I haven't read it yet. I haven't read, I think I've only read 1 or 2 stories from Arcanum Unbounded, so I need to actually read more of them. But because I hadn't read those 2, I feel like there was a lot of stuff in this that I couldn't follow everything that was happening because I hadn't read those two short stories or those 2 novellas yet. There was information that would have been important to those stories that how do I word this? There was information that I believe is in those 2 stories that would have been important to the understanding of this one better. I've also mentioned it before in regards to stories like The Lost Metal, but to me a story shouldn't rely that much on Easter eggs and understanding other stories to be able to enjoy the book you're currently reading. And this one 100% needed, at the very least, Stormlight to have been read, which is understandable. So obviously you're not going to read book 5 of Stormlight before you read books 1 through 4. That makes sense, and since this one is specifically so Stormlight adjacent, I can be okay with that yeah, you should probably read Stormlight before you read this book. And I also do understand that this book really is for superfans. It's the 4th book in a massive Kickstarter where you have to spend a lot of money just to get the books as it is, because this book isn't going to come out anytime soon, and the superfans who are going to pay for that are going to be the ones who get to listen to this book or read this book first. That's, like, I understand it. This is not a book for just the generic fantasy audience, let alone the generic reading audience. This is specifically for Cosmere superfans, for Brandon Sanderson people who really like, or for the people who really like Brandon Sanderson. This is one of this book was written for them. It even, I believe the dedication even says so. Let's see if I can find that real quick. For all of you, the fans of the Cosmere who make my dreams come to life. So this is specifically the book that he wrote for Cosmere fans. And because of that, I understand that there's probably going to be a lot more tie-ins and a lot more references back to other things, a lot more Easter eggs. And even though I do understand that, I would also like the story to be enjoyable to anybody who wants to pick it up. And I also understand that people don't like writing, people have different tastes, people have different enjoyments and writing styles, all that kind of stuff. I understand all that as well. But I want it to be as accessible to as many people. I want every story to be as accessible to as many people as they possibly can be. And then it's up to the reader to decide whether or not they want to read and enjoy that book, or if it fits their tastes. So, while on one hand I understand, yes, this is a book for the super fans of Brandon Sanderson, I also understand that I want books to be accessible for everyone. So, a little bit there. This one is less frustrating to me in the Easter eggs regard than Lost Metal was, but at the same time, Lost Metal was book 7 in a series, so it is kind of a trade-off. I also feel like with this one that it is, again, what I would consider to be like Sanderson's newer stuff. I've talked about how I prefer his older stuff, his older stories more than his newer ones, and some of the Secret Projects has felt more like his older stuff, and then this one specifically feels a lot more like his newer stuff. And it doesn't feel like it's written for me anymore. I feel like specifically Mistborn Era 1 and then the first 2 Stormlight books, those books really feel like they're written for me in a way that it's the type of fantasy that I love. It's the writing style really works for me. Basically what I'm saying is Sanderson's strengths have changed from his older books to his newer books. And that's not to say that his works are bad now, it's just that his strengths have changed to other areas, and my tastes still align with more of his older strengths, and that's fine. So I still really enjoyed this book and a lot about this book, and I'm sure the illustrations are going to be fantastic when I actually get a chance to sit and look through the book, and I know that this book will be important to the Cosmere in the future, but it didn't work for me quite as well as I was hoping, and I kind of suspected this to be the case, but I did love the book. I think that it's a really good entry into the Cosmere, and maybe had I understood a little bit more of, specifically from those other 2 stories that I mentioned, maybe I would have loved this one even more. But since I haven't, it's what it is. Undoubtedly, I'll read it again in the future if I get the opportunity, and I will probably enjoy it more at that point. So that's really all I have to say. Thank you guys for watching. And Erudite Adventure, we post videos every Monday and Thursday, and our social media is linked in the description down below. We will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.